It's Ben Ferguson. Join me Sunday nights at 6. Now back to Cardle and Woolley on Talk 1370.
Well, it's Dennis Farris and Lynn Woolley in this morning. Jim is a little up in the frozen Northland, although it may not be frozen so much in July, but he'll be back on Tuesday. Sherry Sylvester is with us for Winners and Losers. And Sherry, a tragic week in Texas, as we all know. And winners are a little tough to come by maybe this week, but what do you have on your list?
Well, let's give ourselves some perspective. It has been this weekend, it will be 1 year since Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. And think about that, just a year.
Yep.
And what he has done, I mean, who could have thought at that time when he put his hand in the air and said, fight. I mean, many people think the election was over at that point, although a lot of us on this show saw that the election was over like months before. But he has completely transformed the world in terms of attitudes about America. We're reasserting our power, our leadership, our values. So that I made Trump the winner. And of course, he will be in Texas today, as your news reported. He will be in Kirk County in the flood zone, and those people will be glad to see him. But on the loser list, Lynn, I put the flood blamers. Those people that started out trying to blame Trump, saying that there weren't enough employees on duty at the National Weather Service, and we found there were plenty of people on duty, even extra people on duty. But the real people that it was so just unbelievably concerning. Not concerning is not even, why does the left think like this? The woman, Sadie Perkins, in Houston, who said that this was a white girls' Christian camp and there wouldn't be so much upset if Hispanic girls had been drowning. And I don't know if you saw the follow-up to that. And she said MAG would be happy to see LGBTQ kids floating down the river. There is a GoFundMe page up for this woman who, with people all in Houston saying, she was just saying the truth and she should not have been canceled. So, I mean, big loser of the week. And then, of course, the pediatrician who said the MAGA voters in the flood zones got what they deserved. And she said, right at the beginning, she said, may all the visitors, the children, and the non-MAGA voters and pets be safe and dry. But Kirk County voted MAGA, and they got what they deserved.
She got fired.
Yeah, that was despicable. That was absolutely despicable.
Right.
One of the comments I made
I was looking for.
One of the comments, Sherry, that I made to Jim Cardle was how on this radio show we talked and decried the loss of those migrants that were trapped in that truck. And they all died in the back of that truck. That's human suffering, and nobody is for that.
No, it's just it is. What is awful about it is that we know that people think this way. I mean, this was one person that spoke up, but this was just the idea that people would think, oh, they got what they deserved. It's just outrageous.
Well, that is today's progressives. That is today's Democrat Party.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, Dennis.
Somebody else's term.
Dennis, what did you come up with?
Well, again, like both of you, I was really struggling to find a winner this week. The tragedy in Texas, everything else that's going on. But this is going to sound bad, maybe, but the lakes. Our lakes are coming back up because of this rain, and that's how lakes fill back up.
Well, the drought conditions are over.
The drought,
yeah. At least for now.
If there's a bright side to all of this, is that we're out of this drought cycle for now. Lake Travis is up probably 22 feet, which, just to give you a perspective, that's about 150 billion gallons of water. To bring it up that much, that's a lot of water. But unfortunately, Mayor Leffingwell said to me one time, Dennis, the lakes will always fill up, but unfortunately people are going to die when it happens, and that's what happened in this. But I think it's good. If there's any good going to come out of this, it's that the lakes are back up and that's good. Eventually, will be good for everybody.
Well, you know what I had flood related as part of my winners list is those who volunteered, especially those who have some background in rescue and recovery and were able to go down there and actually help. Everybody in the country has seemed concerned except those losers that Sherry mentioned a moment ago. Obviously, the news media wants a story, and they're looking for where to lay the blame, and there's a time for that. This may not be it. But people going down there, trying to rescue people, now the recovery effort, searching for the bodies, agencies like the Salvation Army, just amazing. And I'll note this, I don't like him, but I'll note that Governor Newsom offered to send people from California, and I believe did send some people from California to help with the search effort.
Yeah, and so on my loser side, two of them are related to this whole mess going on with the Paxton family. They're airing their dirty laundry on social media, although we knew a lot of the things about the infidelity during the impeachment hearings and things like that. But, the people that are really the losers in all this are their kids and their grandkids, because now that this is airing out in public, even though their kids are adults, it's still going to affect them. You see your parents fighting, and they're fighting each other and yelling and trying to embarrass each other on social media. And the fact that people think, and we talked to this with Adam, people think that because of all this, that it's going to somehow hurt his chances in the election, and it just simply isn't going to happen. And then my last one is kind of relates to what Sherry said about the people down in Houston, that those two ferocious women who said what they said. But my loser would be anybody who's trying on either side of the aisle that's trying to use this tragedy for political gain. You simply can't do that.
Well, we did have some cool things that happened this week. I was traveling. The TSA shoe rule is over.
Yes.
The tyranny of the shoe bomber. You don't have to take your shoes off anymore, which was one of the most terrible things that came out of that period. But, I've got a couple of lefties on my winners list, and I put them on just because I love the opportunity. One was Sonia Sotomayor, who wrote with the majority in the 8-1 decision that Trump does have the right to cut the federal workforce. I think any of us, even who are not lawyers, could figure out that is an executive prerogative. And she criticized Ketanji Jackson, who obviously was the only dissenter and having nothing to stand on but her politics. And then also, did you guys see this? And the Democrats are trying to figure out who they should run for the Senate, since it looks like they could maybe beat Paxton. And we got all the regular guys calling all rads, saying he's going to run Beto, Joaquin Castro. But who's running like 15 points ahead of him is our girl, Jasmine Crockett.
Yes.
Jasmine Crockett. So, yeah, bring it on. Would that be terrific? So I had those winners. But Superman, did you guys talk about Superman? Superman is on my loser list.
Well, I have crypto on my winner list.
Cryptocurrency?
Well,
No, crypto is Superman's super dog.
Oh.
Now, come on, Dennis.
Look, I'm not.
No, wait a minute. Any movie that stars Crypto the super dog has just got to have something going for it, doesn't it?
Well, no, not if he cannot say truth, justice, and the American way.
Well, no. It's truth, justice, and the human way.
Right, yeah.
But I understand, Sherry, that was IMBD that did that's not in the movie, but I will confess that I have not seen it, and I had not intended to see it because I'm one of the world's biggest Superman fans, owning a comic book collection that goes back to 1940. And I just the trailers did not do anything for me.
Well, the guy that was the last Superman, who was Dean Cain, he has criticized the current Superman, James Gunn, and said, don't have Superman go woke. If you want a new superhero that is woke, get a new superhero. Well, did you talk about Biden's doctor? I mean,
Well,
'cause
you're
I got
talking
him
about
at the
Kevin
top of my
O'Connor.
loser-
Yeah, he's on my loser list for
Ab-
pleading the fifth.
Absolutely, pleading the fifth and saying doctor patient privilege. They didn't ask him, about Biden's pancreas. They asked him if he had been told to lie.
Well, now, wait a minute. I'm going to jump in here and make a statement I made to Jim Cardle earlier this week. I thought this patient, this privilege with the patients applies to everybody in the country pretty much except the president. Don't we make his medical records open to the public? He's the leader of the free world.
I thought that we did too, but I'm not sure. I think, Lynn, that we may need to make that a law, that we may need to require that it happen every 6 months and then it has to be public.
I don't necessarily disagree with you because they open up when you run for public office, and it's one of the reasons why I'll never run for public office is because you have to open up everything, financials, things like that. And I'm not saying I get my money in a nefarious way. It's nobody else's business other than the IRS, I guess, where it's nobody's business, and I choose not to do that because I don't want to do that. But we're talking about the president of the United States. We're talking about the guy who not only has, at least the guy that's in the office now, has the button that can set off the nuclear weapons, but has the button that can bring Diet Coke into the Oval Office. But
and should.
But we're talking about a
Absolutely.
guy who we all saw, and we're not stupid, right? We're not stupid. We saw the mental decline of Joe Biden.
Yes.
We saw it from people that, if you watch anything even from when he was the vice president, the mental decline was there. And being the president of the United States is a very stressful job. Every person that's ever gone into that office, with the exception of a couple, when they came out of that office, they went in with a full head of hair in its natural color to coming out with it being gray.
Well,
and that right there should tell me, look at Barack Obama,
Oh,
look at George
absolutely.
W. Bush. Reagan probably colored his hair, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that. Clinton's blonde hair. I mean, Trump probably colors his hair. Biden's hair was already white. But it obviously, what I'm getting at, it was very obvious that he was declining in front of our very eyes. And to say he wasn't is just, is lying and disingenuous. And we as the American people have the right to know that the guy that could start World War III is capable of doing the job.
Now, speaking of presidents, Sherry, you may disagree with me on this. Dennis may disagree too, but you know me, I'm blunt. I picked Trump for the first time ever as a loser. This Epstein thing that he did earlier in the week, berating a reporter for asking an obvious question after we had found out they weren't going to release anything on it, and then to have Pam Bondi come back and lie to the American public, whether I'm MAGA, whether I'm America First, whether I like Pam Bondi as AG or not, I don't like being lied to. And that was the worst moment of Trump's entire career, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's a problem. He's going to have to circle back and fix it. But I mean, there's a lot of theories about what they may have found, but I think he is going to have to come back and fix it. On the other hand, we're always blessed when conservatives and Republicans have a bad moment, the Democrats will have a worse moment. Like all of the Democrats voted against condemning the attacks on ICE, with the exception of Fetterman. I mean, just unbelievable, condemning the LA riots, all that kind of stuff. So they keep coming back with that kind of stuff if Trump stumbled on this. But I think we need to know more. If they're not releasing it, I don't think it's because they're protecting one of Trump's buddies. I think there's something else that has to do with international policy that we just don't know about. But A through F, dragging us back to Texas, the A through F wins in court. This is the law that we passed 3 sessions ago. All it is it requires that every public school gets a grade, just like a kid. If your kids can do math and reading, they get A's. If they can't, they get F's. And the school districts all over the state took the state to court so that parents would not know if their kids were in failing schools before it was pass fail. So the last group of the 15th Court of Appeals ruled this week that they've got to release the grades.
And that's a great point. I'll mention that the big beautiful bill was signed on July the 4th. And so we'll see how that all works out. And with that, that's our time for winners and losers. Sherry, we will see you next week.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys.